Thank you all. I'd like to call this meeting to order and good afternoon, members of the exec committee. Whenever you do make a comment, motion, ask a question, please state your name so that we all know who you are. Let's take the roll.
Thank you, Chair. I will go through the list of members. Please indicate if you're present when I call your name. Mayor Gallego. Mayor Freeman.
Here virtually.
Thank you, and welcome to your first executive committee meeting. Mayor Hupke.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Hermosillo.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Osborne.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Wires.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mayor Wheatley. Chair, we have quorum.
All right, thank you so much. Next item is call to the audience. It is my understanding that we have received no online written comments or other forms of medium to request an audience. Is that still correct?
Thank you, Chair. That is correct. We have received no comments for call to the audience and no comments for any other item on the agenda.
All right, I shall forgo it for the rest of them. There is no information items on item number 3. So our next agenda item is item number 4, approval of the consent agenda. Items 4A through 4H are all on consent.
Mayor Hartke, we can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now? Hello?
No,
On the
it's not
virtual,
showing that you're muted, but your audio just dropped.
Really?
I can hear Mayor
Yeah.
Harkey.
Yeah, I can hear him as well.
Yeah, I've not done anything different, so I don't know what's going
Is it
on.
us?
Is it us?
I saw the other green boxes lighting up as if they're talking and it wasn't lighting up.
Well, for the record,
One
Mayor, I
moment,
can
let
hear
us see.
something.
Yes, okay, we're not hearing anyone, so I think the audio's dropped on our side.
On
Mayor
our
Freeman,
side.
thank you for confirming that we can see your lips move, but hear no sound. So
Okay.
we're gonna take 1 second.
I will be right down to
this
fix
one.
technical issues.
Okay. Can you?
Another case where it's not
Let
me,
me,
it's you.
Let us check with tech help and understand what happened. And let's try.
We can hear you.
Oh, we heard you just a bit. Hold,
Okay, we can hear you clearly.
okay,
but
now we're hearing
we
very
can't
quiet.
hear very well. Let's try this one, and I will call.
How about Mayor Freeman? Can you hear my?
No, go back to the other one.
I hear you clearly, Mayor Freeman. I
Thank
think
you.
it's all them. It's whatever their system is.
Gotcha.
There we
There we
go.
Just take off without him.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. We already voted on items 4A through H. We're worked our way down. Any comments from members before we adjourn? All right, that's not the case. All right, so you can hear us clearly now?
Yes, we
Perfect,
can. Thank
yes.
you, Chair.
All right, great. Items 4A through H are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have questions or request a presentation for any of the items? Hearing none, prior to approval of the consent agenda, we already know that no one is speaking. We've received no written comments. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items for A through H?
Eric Horsborn, I'll make that motion.
Second, Mayor Hermosillo.
We have a motion by Mayor Osborne, second by Mayor Hermosillo. We'll now, for those participating in the meeting, take place in the voice vote by turning your cameras on, unmuting your audio. Staff would love to see your beautiful faces and reminds them how lucky they are to work with such a handsome and good-looking group like us. So can I have a voice vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say nay. All right, are we able to say the vote's unanimous or do we need to do separate calls?
Mayor Osborne, is your camera off? Because we're just getting a black screen when you're going to camera.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too, and I don't know what's going on there. I'm hitting the camera on.
Is there a cover on your computer that covers over the
No,
camera
sir.
lens?
No, and this was working just a little while earlier,
All right,
You can just
but I'm an
ask.
I.
he said he was an
He
aye.
said aye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chair, the motion carries.
All right, moving ahead through the consent agendas, item number 5, consultant selection for the fiscal year 2025 Clean Air Act, Section 179B, demonstration of the International Transport of Emissions and Air Quality Update. This item is on the agenda for action and will be presented by Matt Poppin, Environmental Director. Go ahead, Matt.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Executive Committee. We wanted to take a moment and just explain this consultant selection a little bit to you and then provide a little bit of an air quality update as well. But as you can remember, over the last year or so, we've been talking a lot about how we're going to address.
You disappeared, your voice. Hello?
Moderate non-attainment area.
Okay.
One moment.
One moment. Let's try. Okay. Can you hear us now?
We can hear you now.
We can't hear them.
We barely hear them.
Yeah,
Go back and see just one more
just
time.
go back to the
See what happens.
Cottonwood. Okay. Can you hear us now?
You're coming in loud and clear.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry for that. So what I was explaining was we're in the situation where we're currently classified as a moderate non-attainment area for the ozone standard. But we believe we'll be imminently reclassified to serious because we failed to meet that moderate attainment date. So as part of that, we have to prepare a serious area plan to EPA by January 1st, 2026, saying this is how we're going to meet the ozone standard. And what we know is that even if the region were to adopt a bunch of new measures, it would not be enough to model attainment by the year that we have to, which is 2026. So the only way we're going to be able to demonstrate attainment by 2026 is to exclude international emissions, either from Mexico or from Asia, if we can identify them. So really the consultant that we received, this is Rambles America. This is the consultant that we expected would apply for this project. They have done the submission for the state of Utah. They've done a couple submissions for the state of Utah and also Colorado in the past, as well as California. So we weren't surprised that this was the consultant that decided to submit. And so what we'll be doing is they'll be doing a demonstration that we would have attained, or we will attain the standard in 2026 if we can exclude emissions from Mexico and Asia. So I kind of wanted to give you that background and see if you had any questions on that process before we take the action, and then I can give you a couple other air quality update items.
My question is more, again, it seems like in DC there is more uncertainty and acute confusion forever. Is EPA even able to issue us anything with what's going on and cuts to staff, et cetera? So you seem more confident than I do that they're even able to function to pursue this with us. Any comments on that?
Yeah, Mayor Harkey, it is really an evolving situation, and we're trying to stay on top of it. We do think we should continue with this path because we do think eventually we will be required to do a serious area plan. However, we are made aware that the Republican delegation of congressmen have submitted a letter to President Trump asking that he direct the administrator to determine already that we would have attained the standard, but for international emissions, and keep us at moderate and not bump us up. So this situation is really fluid, and to try and prejudge what EPA will do, I'm not that smart, so I'm not going to do that. So one of the things that we might have to consider in the future is maybe adding some additional funds to this contract to do backward looking to keep us at moderate. So we'll kind of see how things play out, but we do feel like this is the best path currently going forward. But there is a lot of uncertainty for sure.
And I think in the case of EPA for this, Mayor, it's a good question. And what we've observed is EPA has continued to engage with us regularly on this subject. Because this is a Clean Air Act requirement, it's statutory, and businesses depend on a functioning EPA to comply with the Clean Air Act. We have seen them continue to engage with us. What we think will happen, though, is they will have a different approach to their guidance and their how they approve it, as opposed to whether they will staff the approval or not. But again, anyone's guess, and you're right to be asking that question. We're doing the same, but so far we've seen them continue to engage.
And I think it's a good idea to continue the process. I mean, if nothing else, we don't know what's going to happen in 4 years. And if we can already prove and get accepted the exclusion of international transport, then that just, regardless of the short-term gains, it's in our benefit. I think you're smart and moving ahead with that, at least my opinion.
We agree. I think this is an important action that you as regional leaders are taking to continue to push our message and come up with the data that supports the position that you've taken as a regional body.
Okay.
Chair Harkey.
Mayor Freeman.
Hey, thank you. My question to the team out there is, air quality is extremely important, obviously, but we have sometimes fugitive air, I will call that, coming into our community. Do they evaluate, does air seem to have their own DNA or fingerprints, that we can determine, hey, we're getting air from forest fires in northern Arizona, or we're getting forest fires from California, or other things? Can you elaborate on that?
And Mayor Freeman, just before you got on, we approved a study that is doing that is more forensic, with the working with ASU and other partners to do that. So we are certainly looking at that, and the whole transport area is exactly, you could call it fugitive or that, but it's ozone that we have not created, as we're trying to get dismissed. But
okay, very good.
Matt,
Thank
would
you,
you
Chair.
want to follow up with more intelligent comments than mine?
No, thank you, Mayor Harkey. That was a good summary, actually. Yeah, we're hoping that this GLORE project, the ground level ozone research project that Mayor Harkey talks about, that will happen this summer, will provide us more insight. The granularity of how much we can separate between like northern Arizona and California gets a little bit more difficult, but there are some signatures that can be generally identified that help us know where the air comes from, and certainly we have those wind patterns that we can help us determine that when the wind comes up from Mexico, from the Gulf of Mexico, it's much easier to attribute emissions to Mexico. Or if the wind patterns are out of the west coming across California, then we think it's much more likely that Asian impacts us as well.
So you're also using satellite imagery,
Correct.
or the consultants will use satellite imagery to track that flow of pollutants, I guess. Right.
Any additional questions, or Matt, do you have anything else with your presentation?
Just one more brief item. Just wanted to switch gears and make you aware of, we've talked a lot about PM 2.5, the new EPA PM 2.5 standard. I just wanted to let you know that the governor was required to submit her recommendations on the non-attainment area boundaries earlier, and she has declined to do that. So currently, the state has not submitted recommendations to EPA on non-attainment area boundaries for PM 2.5. So I just wanted to give you that update as well.
Is it possible that Kelly and Gallego can also work to maybe rescind this to 2.5 and back to where it was, where we were under compliance? Is there any initiative going in that direction?
Yeah, thank you, Mary Harkey. We do know there is a lawsuit pending, and that was one of the reasons the governor stated why they chose not to submit recommendations, was that there is a lawsuit pending. So the courts will play that out. And then I assume that that might be one of the things the new administration is looking at, if there's any path to reviewing that PM 2.5 standard again. We haven't heard anything specifically to that, but I'm sure that might be something they're looking at as well.
Okay. Any additional questions before we vote on this? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve Ramble America's Engineering Solutions, Inc. for the FY 2025 Clean Air Act, Section 179B, demonstration of international transit of emissions? We have a motion.
So moved. This is Mayor Wheatley.
Thank you, Mayor Wheatley. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor Osborne.
All right, we have a motion by Mayor Wheatley, second by Mayor Osborne. Again, if you are able, please turn your cameras on, and if you just have the black screen of death like Mayor Osborne, we will call you out. So
It's so disappointing because I combed my hair and everything to be on camera today.
I think you have sunburn from your event out there the other day personally, so that's what you're doing to us. But all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, staff, do your magic.
Thank you, Chair. The motion carries.
Excellent. Great. Item number 6 is development of MAG fiscal year 26-27 biennial unified planning work program and budget. This is on the agenda for information and discussion. Will be presented by Kathy Christensen, our accounting program manager. Kathy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Executive Committee. I'm here today to discuss the development of the MAG Biennial Unified Planning Work Program and Budget. The MAG UPLAB identifies planning priorities and activities to be carried out within the metropolitan planning area. It details who will perform the work.
You have to, let's say,
Sorry.
tell Tyler to advance. Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. All right.
Thanks, Tyler. It details who will perform the work, project schedules, project costs, and funding sources. Next. Although the UPWEP is developed biennially, it is managed by fiscal year. Next. Once approved, amendments to the UPWEP are submitted to ADOT for FHWA approval. Next slide. Next. The UPWEP contains 3 main components. Next. The program's in brief, which is a summary budget document, usually about 15 to 20 pages, that is meant to function as a tool for quickly understanding the financial implications of the MAG budget. The overview and work program elements section, which contains a detailed breakdown of planned activities. Next. And the budget section that includes funding allocation and financial details. Next slide, Heather. The MAG FY 2025 budget is approximately $38.1 million in revenues. Next. The majority of which is allocated to transportation and agency support expenditures. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Thank you. The development process is structured incrementally to allow for input at various stages. This month, the draft member dues and assessments and preliminary lists of proposed project funding are being presented. These items have also been included in your agenda packets. In March, staff changes and proposed salary increases will be presented. And in April, we will provide a draft copy of the UPLOAD document that includes 2 of the 3 main components, the programs in brief and the overview and work program elements. And in May, the final document will be presented for approval. Next slide, please, Tyler. Next. The dues and assessments account for less than 3% of MAG's operating budget and are used to help fund specific projects as directed by member agencies. Next. The proposed FY 2026 dues and assessments reflect a 4.13% increase or consumer price index increase and the elimination of the 911 planning assessment. Ongoing work associated with the 911 activities are now included in the member agency dues. Additionally, the water quality assessment has been reduced to match anticipated work. Next. The proposed FY 2027 dues and assessments include a 2.96 CPIU increase, and an increase to the solid waste assessment for requested regional research updates. The calculation reflects the FY 2025 population estimates approved by the MAG Regional Council on December 4th, 2024.
So in terms of dues and assessments, we want to take just a second here to talk through that. As you've noticed, this the MAG budget development process is a little different from your city's own budget development process because we're governed by federal transportation law and how we develop it. And because ADOT is the agency we have to work through, we back up our timing to be a little earlier than you're used to. And also because it's in a 2-year cycle, it's quite large. So we break it into pieces for you. One of the reasons why we're coming right now is because we need to develop our dues and assessments to get to your city managers to include in your own budgets. Although as Kathy noted, the dues at MAGs fund a very small percentage of our budget. So unlike the League of Cities and Towns or AMWA, we don't depend on dues for our primary source of funding. But that 3% is really important for us to be able to do things like domestic violence and provide quality meeting spaces for folks, among other things. This year, the dues and assessments, we went through and scrubbed through them. And as Kathy showed, they will be on the whole, not for every individual city, but in large, the dues and assessments will be almost $170,000, $190,000 less this year than they were last year. That's because primarily of two things. The 911 assessment is being removed because cities are individually contracting with the state for 911 instead of doing it as a region, as we've done for the last 40 years. And we've worked through that with the regional council and the management committee. And we've taken a fresh look at our water quality assessment. Our water quality assessment dues, and we've reduced those to more accurately reflect what we think our staff time will be. So those are the two things that bring it down a bit. We are preserving some of the 911 planning money inside the dues assessment themselves. So we do have some ability to do work as needed on the question of statewide 911 funding, but overall, it's a significant reduction in the aggregate dues and assessments. The main notable thing about FY27 has been a request from our member cities for us to update a solid waste best practices report that we did almost 10 years ago. And we added a bit more, an increment more in the assessment there for FY27, which is why FY27 will be a little higher than FY26. I'll answer any questions on the dues and assessment specifically, and then Kathy has another slide or two. All right, Kathy?
Okay, next slide, Tyler. Okay, next. The provided list of proposed project funding includes the project name, description, cost estimate, and anticipated completion timeline. Next. Most of the proposed funding for 2026 and 2027 is allocated to 31 transportation projects, totaling just over $18.5 million. In addition to those projects, there are 5 environmental projects with a combined total of about $3.8 million, and a community initiative project for $70,000. Next slide. A few projects to highlight include the Airport Travel Survey, the Central Valley Transportation Corridor Study, the US 60 Ironwood Drive to Superstition Mountain Drive Corridor Study, the US 60 Grand Avenue Corridor Optimization Study, and the requested solid waste projects and program in the MAG region update. Next slide. Thank you, members of the executive committee. This now concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions? Hearing none, again, this was for information and discussion, and you can mull over this and save your questions for a regular meeting coming up. Executive Director's report, Ed Zuercher.
Mayor, I don't have anything today. I think we can move to our legislative update.
Very good. Let's do it.
Good afternoon, Mayor Hartke, members of the executive committee. So we're entering our 6th week of the legislative session. And today for you all, I just wanted to mention one bill briefly, SB 1284, fireworks, aerials, licensures, penalties. It's similar to legislation that has been introduced in previous years in which it is expanding allowable consumer fireworks, which will have an impact on our air quality efforts in the region, specifically with PM 2.5. During last month's regional council meeting, there was lively discussion around this issue due to the air quality, specifically during that December 31st to January 1st timeframe. And so as this legislation conflicts with our approved policy principles as part of our air quality planning efforts, we're seeking direction from you all today as the executive committee to sign and oppose to the legislation. And that is my report.
Okay, so specifically seeking direction on what with this? I understand it's going to expand, but what's
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Harkey. So the legislation itself is, it has been introduced at the legislature, and the bill we brought up in management committee, the member agencies signed and opposed. And as this was a conversation topic that was very highly, there was a lot of interest in the conversation. As we saw this bill be introduced afterward, we're now seeking direction from you all to make sure that if the member agencies so choose, that we as MAG, as the organization, sign and oppose on through the legislature on bill status inquiry.
Sam, specifically, what does the bill do that we oppose on air quality grounds?
Yeah. Thank you, Ed. So the bill itself is expanding certain types of fireworks that are allowed to be used by consumers. The expansion includes fireworks that are more of an aerial based type of firework, which would have impacts on our PM 2.5. And so it's doing a few other things as well, including related to wholesale and related to fire marshals jurisdiction and allowable enforcement. But one of the pieces of the legislation is expanding what can be used by consumers during our allowable times of uses.
So it would allow even more kinds of fireworks to be shot in the air than were before.
Correct.
okay? And who's running this one?
That would be Senator Gowan.
Of course, yeah. And it passed through committee already? Is it in Cal or where's it at?
So it has, thank you, Chair Harkey. So it hasn't moved through the process as of yet. This is the last week to hear bills in their committee chamber of origin, but as the saying so goes, nothing is dead until shiny die. And so it has not moved through the process yet, as of yet.
Okay. And so you're asking us whether we would like MAG to voice an opposition poll or voice on this. That's correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Members, to me, I'd say yes. You know, again, it's we have more and more problems with noise, with animals, with certainly with PTSD folks, and allowing of more aerials is going to be more noise, as well as the PM, just the 2.5. So is there anyone who thinks that we should not voice an opposition with this?
Mr. Chair, just to clarify here, I'm looking at agenda item 8 is information and discussion. It's not set for a vote. So you certainly are free to discuss, but it's not really an action item in that sense.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Yeah, I'm just trying to get does anyone have any to give? Obviously, we're not voting on this, but is there any to give direction? Is there any voice on this?
Mr. Chairman, Mayor Wires.
Mayor Wires.
Yeah, I would warn this committee that if we push real hard to try to not have them do that, they're going to push real hard to do it. But if we offered a suggestion based upon the facts that this is really hurting us for all sorts of reasons, and maybe ask them to exclude Maricopa County and none of the other counties in the state, that might give them a solution where they can try to address our concerns and still allow fireworks.
That's a good suggestion. If sticking to the pure issue of 2.5 in Maricopa County, that's for sure.
Well, sometimes just saying no doesn't get us anywhere, but offering a partial solution could get us where we need to go, or at least help.
Additional questions or comments?
Yeah, Mayor Harkey, Eric Osborne.
Mayor Osborne.
Yeah, I'm not voting because the attorney's watching, but I would be all in on signing something. I think Mayor Wire's suggestion is a very good one that gives them a win in expanding what they want to do across the state, but it kind of holds us harmless in the area from a pollution perspective. And I think we could probably flood. We get more complaint emails about fireworks in our community than I think anything else in the community. So we could probably also flood the, push it out on our social media channels and flood the legislature with people that would be vehemently opposed to any increase in fireworks sales or use during any of these times.
I also wonder whether we can, I see your hand there, Mayor Geigo, but I also wonder, is there a place of suggesting that maybe if there's more fireworks, reduced times, that's not the direction that they're going with this, but it certainly seems if we treat PMT as a quantity, and if you add more, can you have less time? That I don't know. But Mayor Gallego, you had your hand up.
Thank you. We think it would be helpful to share that we had the worst air quality in the country driven by fireworks over New Year's. And I'm comfortable with signing in per staff recommendation or Mayor Wire's proposal. Perhaps we could just say it as any region with non-attainment would be not included in the expansion of fireworks or in danger of non-attainment.
Wise. All right.
Chair.
Mayor.
Thank you. No, I agree with consensus with the group. Mesa's opposing the bill. I mean, I was out there, boots on the ground. It was really bad in our city. So if Maricopa is exempt from that, fine. If not, then we need to oppose it. Thank you.
And Mayor Harkey, I would just to frame it for Mr. Kaufman, we believe as staff, you've already given us authority to sign in based on the policy principles which you adopted earlier a couple months ago that had to do specifically with really with air quality and particulate matter. This is really to get this sort of input about the nuances of how we sign in is very helpful to Sam as we consider following on the policy direction that you all had acted on in the principles. So this is very helpful to us. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, Mr. Zerker, I think you said that well. I think the input has been very helpful. So
All right. Well, again, I think the suggestions by Mayor Gallego and Mayor Wires are certainly worth following too, and it keeps us on issue with MAG's mission. So, all right, Sam, anything else, Samantha?
That's it for today. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Item number 9, requests for future agenda items. Does any member have a request for an item on a future agenda? Hearing none. Item 10, comment from the committee. Is there any comments or announcements from the membership? I just want to thank Mayor Osborne for opening up their Buckeye Air Show. It's my first time being able to go, and certainly it was fun celebrating aviation and avionics, and a good time was had by all.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate y'all coming out. We're really excited about growing that into a regional event that we can all be proud of. And there's some of these across the country that are an example. In Oshkosh, Wisconsin, once a year for a week, they have 600,000 people that go to this giant air fair. They have air shows every day. There's 12,000 general aviation planes that fly in. And it really just showcases aviation and aviation careers. On Friday, we had 2,000 kids on a field trip that learned STEAM careers, which was really, really cool. So I appreciate you being out there and look forward to seeing you all next year.
And my one suggestion would be to rethink the exit strategy. They funneled everyone to head south out of the airport and then east to catch up with the road down to Gila Bend. And that
Yep.
must have been, there was a good 20, 30 minutes I was waiting to make a turn there. So at some point, it might be worth allowing people to head north straight up to 10 rather than forcing everyone to go an alternate route. But apart from that, that was the only thought of, wow, this everything else was super good.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up as the chair of the Maricopa Association of Governments that handles transportation.
Yeah, I hope that Buckeye out of their dollars will put in a stoplight there. Well played, sir.
Thank you.
All right, no other comments? Thank you all for coming. Our next meeting is going to be March 17th at 12 p.m. And with this meeting, so with no further business, today's meeting is adjourned. We'll see you at the regional one coming up soon. Thank you all.
Thank you.